Hello and welcome to the Overton Audios podcast. My name's Colin Chadwick.
And I'm Eamon Longman. And on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the the DWEM, basically, 60th, the Last Universe that just got announced.
And then myself and Emma will be discussing the next Cravat Doctor volume, which is called Doctor Who Earthbound. And following on for that, we'll have, just like we did last year, a nice little visual element of what's coming up in 2023, and we'll discuss those projects.
Ooh, yeah. And then to finish it off, we discuss Mastermind Volume 2 and the Christmas Special.
I want to obviously thank the Overton Audios patrons, which are Anya Coyle, Peter Scott, TT Productions 23, Chelsea Lagan, Delta Effects, and Joe Eddings. So thank you very much. So, how have you been, Eamon?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm really good. Yeah.
Oh, very good, very good.
Tired, but good.
Yeah, I was very aware that in the last podcast I sounded so groggy, and in all fairness, I was. You know, when I was talking to Michael Cox, I kind of was in a messy place, like in terms of energy. I kind of wanted to sleep for 6 hours by that point. Not that he was recording, but we were all recording with Michael Cox at a late hour. It was just at 6 p.m. I just felt so tired, but I couldn't nap because I knew I wouldn't wake up in time to record with him.
Yeah.
And then when we recorded this segment, you know, where it's the full segment of all of us introducing things and everything, you basically carried it. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I think things have just become, unlike, you know, like I think I've said before, like not necessarily on the podcast, but just in life, things have become much more difficult production-wise. I'm still trying to figure out what happened. I think it's just a mixture of my own kind of drive mixed with other people just having lives now, because obviously with COVID lifting, everything like that. I know we haven't mentioned COVID in a very long time on the podcast. Me and Dan used to mention it every podcast. Me and Dan would end up mentioning it in some shape or form. But COVID obviously is still...
I remember there was one time when I think you guys went nearly a whole podcast without mentioning it. And then you were like, oh, yes, and Eamon's back in lockdown because of COVID. And then both of you just sat there in silence and went, damn it.
yeah. But that's the thing, like, things, this isn't me talking about, like, obviously, because COVID is obviously still a thing. I still have some people in my life who still get COVID now. But obviously, due to the vaccine and everything, we're all good. But back then, everyone was kind of indoors and had something needed to do. Obviously,
one of my mates has just flown over to Colorado to see his partner for 3 months.
He couldn't even do that last year.
Yeah, no, but he's gone over and he went to a party the second night he was there. Now he's got COVID. And we were like, he survived the entirety of New Zealand without getting COVID, and now he's in Colorado. He was there for a day and got it. And we were like,
no offense, but like, that's America, isn't it?
Oh,
that was just, I mean, obviously from an outside perspective, obviously neither one of us are in America. The coverage of how COVID was being handled there was just like, what is going on over there? Like people fighting about face masks. Not that I'm sure there was fighting about face masks here. I'm very sure there was, but at the same time, you are kind of left like, yeah, but everyone else, like, you didn't see as much, like there wasn't what you might call the American resistance as there was here. Here there's just very much a kind of like depressing rebellion, and then followed by compliance.
Yeah, we didn't really have that. We had trucks going down the country protesting lockdown. And then we had a really great stint where there was a couple hookers and for
those younger viewers, they because you know we do have those. They are people who work the night.
Night workers.
Yes, that's it. And but not every single person who does a night shift is that.
No. They left Auckland, which is our biggest city, went up north, escaped the lockdown, went through heaps of different things. The police were hunting them. They went up north, did their job. One of them had COVID. Everyone got COVID, and then they ran off into the forest when the police arrived, and they were missing for like a week. And we were like, New Zealand, sick. When we want a COVID-related incident, we really go for it.
Yeah, like nothing screamed COVID lockdown like prostitutes running aimlessly into the woods,
into the forest with the mob.
With the mob. Wasn't there something? Wasn't there
gangs in New Zealand?
Wasn't there a story you told me about? Like someone did drugs and had COVID.
No. Yep. So we also had someone in Auckland ship a whole bunch of cocaine.
Right. But they
down
coughed
to Hamilton.
But they coughed
and they had COVID. And so they sent their cocaine packs off to all their people who wanted cocaine, and everyone who took the cocaine then got COVID. We're like, sick. And then we also had people breaking into Auckland. Once again, Auckland. Auckland is our America. They broke into Auckland, and the police arrested them because they were breaking lockdown. And what they'd done is they had travelled from Auckland down to Hamilton, because we were in level 3, so all of our fast food joints had opened up. But Auckland, because, cocaine COVID and prostitute COVID.
Cocaine COVID.
And was still in level 4. And so they didn't. And so these guys came down, bought KFC, and went back up. And the police, there's a great photo of the police with all this KFC laying out on the hood of the car like it's a drug bust. It's great.
Oh,
like the quintessential New Zealand photo.
Wow. Anyway, we got massively sidetracked there. We got massively sidetracked there.
We just ended up talking about COVID for a bit.
Yeah. So, one thing I think that we should mention is, because it only happened last night, and it wasn't, I will say this, I wasn't prepared for this. You weren't prepared for this. Nobody was prepared for this.
I mean this, be prepared for this.
I mean this jokingly, and I say it obviously. It's not a criticism, but obviously partially. Prism got announced. The Prism universe got announced. So
yeah.
That was great.
Prism.
I just wish we'd had more than 5 minutes notice. And basically, which I don't blame Dan for. Dan's been working so hard at his new job, where he's told me that basically for each weekday, he's only really awake in his own house for 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
The rest of it he's sleeping or working. And he just made something yesterday. Yesterday, obviously, at time of recording was Saturday 26th, was obviously on Sunday. And he just said, I'm going to put this in. He sent it to me and went, I'm going to put this up in an hour. And I went, okay, can you send me the photo? And he went, yeah, I'm just preparing the post at the moment. I'm like, okay. And then he sends me the photo. And like, within 2 minutes, the post is up. And I'm like, he said, I was literally about to tell everyone else about it. So then I found myself posting it quarter of an hour after him. And then James Sutton posted it on Torchwood Nexus maybe half an hour later. It was just very scattered. It was not all simultaneously. But nonetheless, I'm really glad that we can talk about it a bit more, because it's something that we, Dan did come up with a name, Prism.
Yeah.
We were all kind of trying to come up with a name, and people were calling it the Overton universe and everything. And I was very clear that I didn't want it named after me anyway, because I
think it was really just a placeholder name.
Yeah, I'm not lord and master of anyone's content. I make stuff and collaborate with people, but ultimately, just like with Dan, just like with Nathan, just like with Pete, I've always talked about the stories with them first and made sure they're happy. Obviously, with Nathan and Pete, they don't really have much involvement in the production process, but I talk with them to make sure their characters, because ultimately it's still their doctors that they made, they are happy with the stories, and I still send them the scripts and make sure they are happy with it as well. So it's still very much a collaborative effort. So that's why I don't want it to be called the Overton universe. It's not all mine. It's a big collaboration. It's almost like people are licensing their doctors to me in a way. That's kind of how it is. And we just continue as part of the shared universe. And obviously something else we've got to mention as well is that Dan actually, in the same month since our last podcast, left DW 2012 as well.
Oh yeah,
we never even. That's the reason why Prism's been announced, is because Dan left maybe a week or so ago, and then this is announced. We weren't really going to be formally announcing Prism until New Year originally. We were going to leave it just give it a month and a bit, just for everyone to have Christmas. But I suppose this is a nice preview type thing of what's to come for the new year. We're going to have new additions to cover art. So from the middle of January next year onwards, we're going to have the Prism logo in the corner of the cover, so you know what relates to Prism and what doesn't. The only problem is, it's not even a problem. We're obviously not going to backdate it for stuff that's already been made beforehand.
Yeah,
we will make a post saying from now on things will be branded as Prism or not, depending on if it's canon or not. It just makes it easy, because then if you're watching something, you can see if it will say as part of the Prism universe. So therefore, you'll see there'll be Dark Universe 2, which is coming out next year in January. That's where the Prism logos begin. And obviously, as we've mentioned, we will be talking about Mastermind Volume 2 soon. That doesn't have it on it because that was made 6 months ago before, and all the covers were finalized. It's all been scheduled, uploaded. It's all there. And as we know from last night, I had a bit of an issue with the first Doctor Adventures, which will have come out by the time this podcast comes out. But I had issue where suddenly YouTube just copyright and restricted the entire volume worldwide. So I had to go through and re-edit it all, just with the theme tunes. But even doing that took me 6 hours. So just think about how long it will take me to do a 4-episode volume there and everything like that. I don't have that time. I was, you saw me, I was stressing out because I was like, should be editing something else, really. I just know I've lost a lot of time having to fix that problem, because the first Doctor Adventures were finished for a year. And then all of a sudden, 2 days before release, they just suddenly get restricted worldwide. Absolutely bloody nightmare.
YouTube honestly was like, no.
Yeah, exactly it. Yeah. But nonetheless, we've still got a theme tune in it that still is reflective of that era. It's just very much now, like a Redux alternate version of the theme. It's just not the original theme anymore. But yeah, Prism has been announced, and obviously it's not necessarily in Prism, but it's related to shared universes with DWEM or Doctor Who Expanded Multiverse.
DWEM,
you just released Into the Doctor.
I did, yeah. Into the Doctor's now out on DWEM, the YouTube channel. But yeah, no, so that's exciting. I've been writing all of that since January 2020.
Oh yeah.
So it was coming out 3 years, and some of the casts have been around for 3 years, and it was all going to be visual. I was going to try and do visual, and then I just decided it was just too much. So we kind of pivoted to audio. But we had a great teacher. And so now Kiwi's out there. Yeah, Kiwi's first episode is now all out there. And there's a Christmas special set for release like this Christmas, which I'm still editing. I've just been procrastinating on doing it. And then season 1 fully begins. I'm aiming mid next year. We've got a 13 episode first season. I'm just waiting on a couple of scripts, and I'm getting lines in, but it's exciting. And then we cap off Kiwi's stuff next year. Well, not cap it off, he's going for a while, but we cap off next year's lot with the big 60th, the last universe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that a segue?
It could be a segue, yeah.
So
could be a segue.
Could be. Is it?
It is. Now it is, yes.
Very well.
Segue.
Shall we ever listen to it then?
We shall. Pull the lever, Kronk.
Days of the universe, there has been life, constant life, forever growing, forever evolving, always changing.
From the first days of the universe, there has been light, shining down everywhere, ricocheting across horizons, over mountains and into valleys, birthing new civilizations and guiding them further into the future, into the light.
From the first days of the universe, there has been time, ticking, talking, pressing on forever and ever, moving forward, never stopping.
From the first days of the universe, there has been space, expanding, stretching out and out, forever. Everything moving, everything changing, forever in flux, forever never as before.
In the first days of the universe, there has been death, destruction, the end of all things. Everything dies, eventually. Nothing stays, nothing forever.
Eventually we all fade from this life, and the lives we knew fade around us. Time takes life takes time, and the cycle always continues.
From the first days of the universe, there has been darkness, shadows growing, consuming the horizons and all they watch over. The darkness will never falter, never stop, never die.
From the first days of the universe, there has been war, raging through time and space, destroying lives, destroying civilizations. War continues, even if everything around it falls.
War is a constant, inevitable disaster. War is unavoidable. You can't escape it. It's like a veil of fear, of destruction. And just when you think it's over, it begins again.
From the first days of the universe, there has been hope. Hope for a better beginning, for a better future, for a better ending. Hope prevails above war, above time and space, above darkness and light. There is and will always be hope, stretching everywhere, with everyone. Hope is everywhere and everywhere. Hope never dies.
Even if hope survives, so does evil. Evil is everywhere, in the darkest corners of the universe, in the deepest oceans, in the coldest nights. Evil cannot die, ever. It lives on. It's always building, always growing, always plotting. And now it's free.
Right, so welcome back to the podcast. We're here with introduce yourselves.
I'm Dominic Greenwood Martin, Dominic G Martin. I play the Architect in DWEM and the Purple Doctor in DWEM 2012.
Hi, my name is Kenna DeValor, and my Instagram handle is tdragons. That's how some people know me. And I play the Valor Doctor.
Hello, I'm George Guidera. I play too many doctors, but for this one, I play the Blonde Doctor.
And you probably know who I am. I'm Connor Chadwick, and I play the Cravat Doctor.
Connor's also here.
Yeah.
Connor, you followed us into the segment.
I'm just babysitting. That's all I'm doing, Eamon.
Yes.
You put me and Eamon in a call together. That's a fair thing.
After what happened last month, I have to be here.
Hey, I think we handled last month quite well.
So do I.
So, the 60th got announced.
Woo.
And, yeah, The Last Universe, which, of course, all three of you co-star in.
Oh, yeah.
Coming over from George from DWEM and Dom and Kenna from the Remnants kind of universe.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, I think we should probably just start with kind of like, how did you get brought on? What brought you onto the project?
Well, I existed, I guess. Well, you asked me, and I was like, yeah. That is basically what happened. Yeah. I was very, very enamored with the whole idea of it. I thought that it was like a big crossover featuring all these characters from all these different universes in audio. From like, obviously we've got DWEM, Remnants, Overton Audios. It's a great concept to bring all these characters together because I feel it reflects our creative capabilities very well.
I guess I'll go next. Okay, I've been a big fan of audio dramas and voice acting for a really long time. I've known Dom for a really long time through my best friend Jules, and Dom and I and Jules did this wonderful little radio show. And then Dom had other fun audio things that he wanted me to be in, and I was like, okay, that sounds awesome. And then earlier, a little while ago, he's like, hey, I want you to be in the 60th. And I was like, that's epic. And then I met all these wonderful people, and I was like, this is awesome. I love working with all of you friends and having good times. So it's been good. And it just kind of snowballed into something really cool. So exactly. I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that was really wholesome.
Thanks.
Because I should go. I basically, going back to what I said in the previous podcast, I thought Blonde was dead. And then I got asked to be part of DWEM, as well as do stuff with Overton. And then, Eamon, you approached me and was like, I'm doing a 60th. We want Blonde in it. And I was like, yes, I'm up for this, because it was, I don't know, it was just such a big project, but it was just like full of like collaboration, everyone getting like their kind of say in it was really appealing to me. Plus, I said it was actually nice to work with people who I haven't got to work with before. And obviously, I got to meet loads of people like Kenna, as obviously Kenna's brought up, and I got to meet Dom. I've always wanted to meet Dom. Me and Dom have always wanted to meet each other, haven't we, Dom?
Feelings.
It's not like we've known each other for years, but it was just brought on, and it was just a really appealing project to do, and really, really big, epic scale. So loved it.
Yeah, I remember when we started creating it, Dom and George, you two were pretty much on the top of the want list. I think we we fought for you for a couple weeks, because we didn't know which character, Dom, you were going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And then eventually we settled on architect, but there was a fight to get you in there.
Well, that's the thing.
And I'm glad you are.
But I'm still very proud to be in it, and I think it's going to be great. Also, we have Kenna here as my doctor representative. So,
yeah.
I am quite nervous actually, because I definitely want to do that character justice in a way. This is kind of new because there's just so many people working on one big wonderful thing, and I've never worked with so many people on something so huge. So it can be a bit, it looks like this big skyscraper of just stuff, but it's like really awesome. And I'm really excited to kind of bring everything to life eventually and have it all kind of make sense.
I mean, from the teaser alone, you already sound awesome. So we know you're going to do amazing anyway.
Yeah. It's wonderful to have you on board.
Thank you.
The way it's all shaped up, honestly, I couldn't imagine project without any of you.
As a quick update for everyone, by the way, since me and Amy started the Zoom, we did a bit of recording for the podcast earlier. It's nearly at 2,000 views.
Wow.
It's been climbing fast. When we started this, it was 1,100. It's now 1,600.
Wow.
That's insane.
It's. I thought I'd just go on the teaser refresh whilst we're recording to see how fast it will go up. And I looked and it's already gone up hugely. So, yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Really getting out there.
Oh, people are going to be watching us.
So I think that segues perfectly into one of the other questions I have on here, which is how have you taken the reception to this?
I mean, it's been fantastic. I mean, it's not been very long, but I think it's going to go down very well when the actual special will come out. But from the reception of the trailer, I think there's a lot of good vibes here. I'm really liking that people are being introduced to maybe some of these doctors that they haven't really listened to before through this trailer, and they're going to give it more of a go, maybe. I mean, obviously, it's a very nice preview of Valor here. And, of course, it's got the return of the marvelous Blonde. And, of course, we've got Kiwi and Cravat as well as all the other multitude of doctors and companions that are going to be featuring in it. And, of course, my own architect character as well. And I think it's just a nice crossover. And I've already seen someone call it like possibly the most hyped 60th fan event of next year. So I think it is going to go down very spectacularly because it's such an epic scale and it's such a project that has a lot of love behind it. And yeah, that will definitely show in the actual end result.
Like Dom said, it's kind of new right now, but I actually randomly got a bunch of followers all at once, and I was like, "Hello, new friends, what's going on?" And I realized that they were all fans of fan audios and fans of what Dom does, because Dom was the one that kind of introduced me in a way. So I was just really happily overwhelmed by the love so far, and a few comments on the reveal was just like, "Oh, Kenna sounded brilliant in the preview," and I was like, "Do I? Whoa!" Like, I just was kind of like, I'm not used to having that kind of attention, so I was really pleasantly surprised, but also very happy that people are liking it and people are getting excited, because if we put something out so far in advance and there's just more small things being revealed little by little, it gets people excited and it gets people wondering, oh, what are we going to find out next? What are we going to do next? And I think that's really awesome. And I'm glad that people are this excited this quickly. And I hope that the hype stays until it comes out and then there's a big yippee hype. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased. And I hope that the more that's revealed, people will get more and more excited for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I think I'd just be repeating what both Dom and Kenna have just said. Honestly, it's amazing just seeing people get this excited. Like, I got excited. Like, I've already saw what the teaser looked like, but I got excited watching it. Especially because like little things, because obviously I get to see Kenna be their doctor like for the first time, which is going to be like really cool. And obviously I've been in Remnants with Dom, so obviously I knew like stuff about the architect a little bit, and I know from talks that Dom wanted to do more with the character, so to see like the architect being like his own character in this and not just this watcher kind of like figure from like What If or anything is really, really cool, and was just really, really hyped. And seeing everyone come together and the fact that people were like latching onto this, the fact of, oh my God, all these like people are coming together, it just added like such a nice feeling that just, it felt like the collaboration was what was making people really like flock towards this project and really adding the appeal. The fact that there seemed to be this sense of we've all come together. It's not just we're doing it for the sake of it. We're doing it because it's going to be fun. And I mean, the teaser that that Isaac Motion Ideas film did was beautiful. Like that was fun, like really well put together. And it looked very professional. But just yeah, the fact people are this hype now, I just hope, like Kenna said, it stays this way up until the release.
Yeah, no, I've noticed a huge influx of new followers on the DWEM Instagrams and Twitters and stuff. And then people like, I think I had my first interaction with Nathan Carter due to this, and we're being shared around by Jay McGuinness, and heaps of other like creators are beginning to share this around, which is insane. I think honestly, I didn't expect the reach to be this big.
Well, it's the same thing that happened with like you've got the fans as well, who we've been on, like we're on the fan discords and everything. Like I'll name them again, like Spoon. When from Overton Audios we made Tortured Rebirth, Spoon's always loved the characters from that and basically hyped up for the whole month for me, and that's exactly what's happened here. They've hyped up everyone being in it and love, because we've worked together on projects before. This is all of us coming together as one. So it's a mixture of everyone hyping it up, because it's like the ultimate collaboration, really, isn't it? So as a result, it's had more reach than ever. You've got the fan meet, because they've updated the meme page now, and there's now memes about the teaser on Instagram. Yeah. So it's getting a nice spread as well, and that always helps when because this went through multiple drafts in the script as well, because
I think the script we settled on was the third draft.
Yeah, but the fact is that it was made sure that everyone was happy. We didn't want anyone to think, oh yeah, well, I'm just happy to be in it. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I'm happy that at least I'm in it. Everyone feels like because we've got elements from everyone's eras in it, really. You have characters appearing and they get referenced, not just as a cameo or whatever. It feels like it's a part of them as well. And that's what's quite nice, that everyone feels, if you know what I mean when I say where everyone feels seen.
No one's there for the sake of it. Everyone's there and they feel like they have a purpose. No one's wasted.
We all sat down and explained each other's eras. That's what I
wanted to do when I was writing. And we all kind of had a good understanding of each other's eras and how it all would all fit in.
Yeah. We sat down and
there is a clear idea of where it fits in for everyone as well.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, I think.
Like, I know, Eamon, you and me especially had to sit down. Like, you and me especially had to sit down and ask where this takes place for, like, you and me.
Yeah. And I know where this takes place for Kiwi, and we know obviously where this takes place for Blonde.
Yeah.
And we know where it takes place for Irish and Cravat and Northern and Burgundy. So it's all about.
It does a crossover right. It does the thing of, it doesn't just it doesn't make like one particular set of characters look better than the others. Everyone feels like they're standing equally, and I think that's great. And the good thing is, like you're saying about the reception, is the fact that some people who might have only watched the Blonde Doctor stuff because of the original DW 2012 connection, and might only know Dom from that, they might then be discovering like the Architect, and by that like the Valor Doctor, and it's adding the interest for all these other characters. And I think seeing people latch onto that, saying, "Oh, I didn't know about this character. I'm now going to go and look into this character," is great.
Because obviously we're going to have, before 60 comes out, we're going to have the series that features both Architect and the Valor Doctor in it as well. So that is going to be one of the lead-ins to the 60th, essentially. But it will give much more context to those characters. And it ties in beautifully. It's like, why is it what it is doing with everyone else?
Yeah, because there is tie-ins, and next year it doesn't just kind of come out of nowhere. This does build up, and there are things, like there are going to be moments in Kiwi's first season next year that are directly referenced or paid off in the 60th.
I know that, Eamon, we've discussed potentially putting together like a YouTube playlist of the tie-in stories and where you can watch them, and then have at the end of the playlist the actual story when it comes out.
And I've been planning for Blonde stuff to help lead up to that, because obviously you have Blonde and Kiwi box sets planned, so they'll probably have some reference into that. But there's some things in the script that I'm looking forward to referencing in the Blonde Doctor series, so it will make sense, when the 60th comes out.
Yeah.
Just quickly, have we explained the difference between DWEM Blonde and Overton Blonde?
Oh, yeah, there are two versions of Blonde.
I just suddenly realised, oh wait, are people
I think the only person who I know outside of our group knows this is Spoon, because they messaged me and was like, Blonde has two timelines. I'm like, I mean, yes, but how?
In a nutshell, when everyone was kind of rejigging their continuity, you moved over to DWEM, and then at that same time, I was looking at, we could do this. So we've created a point in Blonde's life where it goes off in one direction, like you say, you mentioned the Kiwi and Blonde stuff. Yeah. But whereas the point for me where it diverges for Overton is actually Crimson Hunter Volume 3, which is out now on Overton Audio's YouTube channel.
I like the plug. Yeah, and I think that's been interesting because it means as well, there's some nice character interactions from that. The DWEM version of Blonde, which, I mean, you don't see it right now because obviously we're still waiting for stuff to come out, but is actually quite different to the Overton version. And I think that's nice. It's given me a chance to explore this other character. And because I do think if you put the Overton version of Blonde in this story, it'd be very, very different character interactions.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm just saying this now, the character stuff is where I actually, I think this script shines the best. I think it does great in terms of character stuff. The little moments are beautifully done.
And it also introduces the characters in a very basic form that gives you enough to be intrigued to go and check out what everybody else has made on their separate channels, but enough for you to know that character for the story to be able to progress forward easily.
It's the Avengers 1 of 60th. It's the sense of, if you know the other stuff, great. If you don't, this is not going to ruin anything for you.
Yeah.
My lore is kind of very new. I'm just a little baby in this little lore, little storyline. So even if you don't really know me from other things that Dom and I have done together, I'm new, so you can enjoy whatever happens with us. So at least with mine. So I feel like people coming in blind to it will enjoy it, especially if they haven't seen every single thing that everyone else has done. It's still a treat for everyone involved, because everyone can maybe discover a character that they really relate to and really love, that they haven't really heard from before or even heard of before. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and you've also appeared in that. You've also appeared in that. The wasn't it the phone call episode, Dom, with Remnants that you released? You've cameoed in that at least, so you've technically already had an appearance. So even if that was the only reference people knew, there's still a good reference there. And it still makes people intrigued.
Cool. That's awesome.
So regarding multi-doctor stuff, because obviously we have 7 doctors in this? Yeah. What do you think the appeal of multi-doctor stuff is?
I think the appeal of a multi-doctor story is based on people's fascination with the character of the Doctor and seeing those multiple incarnations interact, and just the multi-Doctor format is the best way to see how different other Doctors are to each other, how each one brings out a facet of a different personality. Like, for example, we look at the Day of the Doctor, and you've got the slightly more uptight 10th Doctor and the very free-flowing 11th Doctor, and those personalities clash a little bit, but they gel by the end. Same in regard to the 3 Doctors or even the 2 Doctors. Is those interactions that do make the story. But I mean, in this one, it's very much a case of that they don't define the story. The story works around the interactions, and everything just flows perfectly. Everything just flows marvelously. And so I would say that I think people going into this expecting a good story and B, multi-Doctor goodness will be satisfied in both ways.
100%. 100% that. And yeah, I think again, I think there's always that big fascination of these are completely different characters, but they're also the same character. That's always interesting. I think just how wild the personalities can vary, can really add to, like I said, character. I think is a big thing about the script that works, and I think the multi-doctor kind of formula really helps that a lot, because, like I said, there are very clear differences. Say, like between, you have the Kiwi Doctor and the Cravat Doctor, both very different characters. So when they meet and have moments like interacting, it's so satisfying to watch. And I think what also works, it's not the mistake that some people do. It's not very tropey. It doesn't fall into all the multi-doctor tropes that I've seen in a lot of like writing before. This feels very fresh. The fact they just get on with things, I really enjoy.
Yeah, I definitely like. I mean, I agree with both of you, like 100%. But I feel like everyone has a different spin on each of their own versions of who they are. I feel like everyone is so unique. Everyone is so just each of them has a lot of depth, and each of them has their own, personality traits, kind of like what Dom said. But it's good to see all of them together. It's basically having one big family reunion, except it's the Doctor, and it's basically one person, but just different amalgamations of each. Yeah, I definitely like the different, how each and every single person has their own version of who they are, and that's very them. And I'm excited for everyone to see their little quirks and what they do, and how they kind of interact. I think that's really special.
I sort of try and use the analogy sometimes with myself that, imagine if you went back in time and met yourself when you were younger. And sometimes you find yourself realizing how much you've learned, but you also sometimes find yourself learning from your younger self. Sometimes you're like, oh, maybe as I've grown older, I've become a bit too uptight about things, maybe a bit too cynical. And his child me running around without a care in the world, maybe I need to be a bit more like that. It reminds me of like those sort of things. That's more of a specific example, because I once asked my dad when I was a kid how the clouds up in the sky, and he explained how the scientific method, and I said it was actually someone holding it up, and he realized he was being too uptight about things. Like, I feel like you can learn things from, like, with certain doctors, you can find yourself learning things, like those doctors learning things from others. In fact, like that happened, for example, with the 50th, like, with the 11th Doctor learning from the 10th Doctor and learning, facing his past head on. Clara obviously helped them all make a realization, but ultimately the realization wouldn't have been made if he hadn't reflected and seen and had to literally face his past. So I think that the multi-doctors have that great opportunity too. But also just because you do like to think like, what would my favorite Doctor be like with the current one, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's nice when and plus we're all friends. So we all like it's not like we all have our own separate stories anyway. So it's nice to do this and cross over and in audio form, run down a corridor together or something like that.
We're friends and we all care about each other's characters. So I think that's what I love about them. I was like, even when you have the typical, they make jabs at one another, it's all in good fun because we all love the work that one another does.
Mm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So on top of the Doctors who are in this, so we've got Burgundy, Kiwi Blonde, Cravat, Velour, Irish Northern. What are there any other fan Doctors at any point you guys would like to do something with?
Chris Hoyle. I'd love to work with Chris Hoyle.
Stole my answer.
We can both work. But no, any of the projection room Doctors would be great to work with. I've been a fan of their work for ages and have had some conversations with them in the past, and they're all very, very lovely people. So that would be cool, and not just because I secretly want to nick his TARDIS console.
For me, it would be Miles Taylor's Doctor. Absolute legendary incarnation, and it was a delight to sorry if you can hear the parade.
Oh, there's like a parade for Christmas going on outside my
apartment. Can't hear a thing.
They're celebrating the 60th. They're celebrating.
Yeah, there we go.
Celebrating it.
It's loud here.
But yeah, Miles Taylor's Doctor is an absolute legendary version of the character, I think, and is one of my favorite other audio series. So if there's anybody I'd like to work with in that sense, it would have to be him. And of course, you're quite new to this world, so you've still got a lot to learn.
I think I've worked with everyone I've wanted to work with so far. I don't really know a lot of people in this type of corner, but I would love to work with people that would kind of have vintagey vibes, that likes to work with, like, sorry, the parade. There's like a horn going. I'm sorry.
I thought I could hear something.
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard anything from a parade.
Funnily enough, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. I wouldn't have noticed it otherwise. Now we know.
It's like a fire truck. It's like a fire truck, like blaring their horn loud as heck.
Like so.
Like that.
Oh,
But I feel like I would love to work with someone that's, just as friendly as all of you guys, and just as open and creative as all of you, because working with you guys has been amazing so far, and I truly love each and every single one of you. So I feel like all of you are unmatched, but if someone, I would love to work with someone who would be just like you guys, who's so nice and open.
Oh, thank you.
I just gotta say this now before I get told off. Obviously, Jed, if you're listening, of course I'd love to work with Jed's Doctor, but I already have worked with Jed multiple times, so just so I don't get told off. I'm meant to be the fanboy. I can't get in trouble.
But yeah,
I think all mine are already in the 60th. All of mine are already there. I think the only ones I'd also put down Miles Taylor, obviously, and Crystal from Velocity.
That's true. But what I admire so much, like, this is obviously kind of like the second part to George's answer. I found like the Doctor Who archive database, and that's how I found all of Chris Hoyle's stuff. And I found that he started making fan films a year before I was born. And I don't know if they're still making stuff now here and there. I know there was a little bit of a pause for a little while, but I binge watched all of those fan films, and it's part of what inspired me to make these fan films. It would be an absolute honor to make something with him, because he's like, I don't want to, like, when I say like he's a veteran of this, he's like one of the first.
Yeah,
he is almost like. I know there are other people like what's his name? Oh God, I've forgotten his name now. Nick Scavell.
Yes.
Like they're all like veteran fan filmmakers. They're from the very classic days of like VHS days, everything like that. And they weren't like, there was no internet. They did it because they wanted to, and they wanted to be a part of this. And that's just like so pure and so good.
And it's the fact they didn't have access, because like we said, it's a lot easier to make basically higher quality stuff now, because there's so much more access to different softwares, high quality. Like our phones can record on 4K and stuff. So watching like how they develop is something else. In fact, I remember Chris Hoyle stuff inspired me so much. I took the cliffhanger from Master Plan episode 1 and did it like as an English bit of prose fiction. I love
that cliffhanger though, because it's so unexpected, isn't it?
It really is, and I think that's what I love about the kind of the wilderness years fan filmmakers. Like you got your Barbara Benedetti's and things like that. There, so and I think that's. Oh, sorry.
No, it's also strange because when the wilderness years, you could consider that your headcanon for the future.
Yeah,
because there was nothing.
Well, for ages, Chris Hoyle was the 8th Doctor, basically. But this is the thing, and I think that's why, I said I love the people who are in this. I wouldn't change anyone who's in the 60th at all. But I can't hide the fact there are people, I would like to work with, just as a way to say thank you for letting me, inspire me and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I second it.
Yeah.
A list of people to work with. I mean, obviously, I've worked with people like in other productions, like obviously there's all sorts. Obviously you got Luke and Meg in the DWEM 60TH, which is also awesome in its own right. And there's this that has a different variety of people, which is like also awesome. And I think what works for me is just like building up those friendships and relationships with those people about, because that's what ultimately makes this fun.
Yeah. To be honest, as cheesy as it sounds, this might be the only chance I probably get to say this. I still freak out every day that Connor and Dom, I'm working with you guys because I admired your stuff for years before we were all friends. Like I remember rushing around Collectomania just to try and get a photo with you at one point, Dom.
I remember that.
Yeah, so it's just so looking at like where we are now. So I still pinch myself every day that I'm working with you guys.
Oh yeah, 2019 me could never have imagined this. 2020 me couldn't have imagined this.
Current day you can't imagine this.
Yeah, no, I only kind of became a part of this group about just over a year ago. When Connor and I did the first podcast I was on, and then the regular Zooms began, and that's kind of how this all started. I think.
Wasn't it the middle of last year? Roughly the middle of last year?
No, we recorded the first podcast I was ever on October last year.
Has it only been that? It feels like forever.
It's only been like a year and a half.
I swear it's that 100-hour Zoom that's warped time for us all.
That's that 100-hour Zoom, yeah.
Yeah.
We all feel so much closer.
Yeah, I mean that's what was great about that Zoom, because we were all talking constantly and kind of watching over it, because we were all passing out on that Zoom eventually. All of us were.
Yeah,
that's what I think brought us all closer as well. It was great.
So, and I see people doing this a lot in interviews for big things. How would you describe this event in 3 words?
3 words.
Oh,
okay.
3 words.
I'm gonna say massive, spectacular, and intriguing.
What was the last word?
Intriguing.
Intriguing. You went to say it and your audio cut out, so we had massive, spectacular, and then you went. We're like, no, cliffhanger.
My 3 words would be exciting, exuberant, and incredible.
I'm just screaming a lot. Amazing, epic, because it really is, and funny. There's a lot of really well done funny moments in there. I think that's a good thing. It's not just overly serious. There are some nice moments in there.
Connor?
Oh,
yeah, you're here, Connor.
Answer me, Connor.
Thrilling, heartwarming, and I think this is the same thing, but I'll say it anyway. Emotional, because it's just sort of just friends working together, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's something we've all wanted for so long.
Yeah, we've been working on this for basically most of this year, trying to make it work, and now it's out there, and it's had such a good response.
The first read through of the first draft of the script was February
6th.
Oh wow,
February 6th.
Yeah,
I've got because I do that 1 second every day thing. I've got it on my 1 second every day. With the script page blurred. It's got the script page blurred in the corner. Because
I was still working at Burger King.
Oh wow!
I remember that read through, just how long it was.
And I told them I couldn't go in that day because I was ill. I wasn't ill. Sorry, Mum. My mum will be listening to this.
Please, Lorette,
I'm going to get a
message
from her afterwards.
Please, Lorette, forgive him.
Look where it's got me, Mum. And also, I did leave Burger King after 2 weeks, so technically it wasn't worth it in the end. So,
making all the
you could have been manager if you went in that day.
Yeah, I wouldn't have mattered if I left that day. I was in pain anyway at that job. Yeah, no, I think the whole 60th has just been really exciting to be able to do, and getting such a wonderful cast in. It's been just such an honor to have everyone actually invested in being in it, and then have the reception that it's got, which is insane. And the reach that it's got, and it's really being talked about, and I think it's really wonderful. Like Connor said, it's gotten so many views. I've just refreshed the page. I've got an ad at the beginning of it now.
Yeah, there's adverts on it now. Skippable.
Where's my money?
In the BBC's pocket.
Yes.
It's gonna be great. When it comes out, it's going to make waves, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm excited to see PR. I'm excited for people to see it, and and in the space in between, we've still got actual trailers, and we've still got
prequels and little specials
to do.
Yeah,
and the cast we've announced for it isn't even the full cast.
That's true. It's very true.
There are people in there who just haven't been announced yet, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see what people will think of it when it does come out.
Prizes to come.
And again, just thank you for letting me be involved in it.
Oh, thank you for being involved in it.
For letting me be in it. I know it was a bit difficult to start, but we worked around it, didn't we?
But we got you in the end. We fought for you. We got you.
Dom is always worth fighting for.
Oh, yes.
We would always fight for Dom.
Very much for letting this one be a part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm really
It's a
glad that
pleasure.
a group of wonderful people like you guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
this has been such a wholesome segment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're expecting me to be mean?
We're just going to cut back to Connor and I just talking shit.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
It's going to come back to us going,
It will. Yeah.
This is the podcast where I just talk to myself.
Yeah.
And Connor bears witness to my insanity.
Yep.
This is the multi-doctor story we needed.
The two Kiwis.
Well, after this, Dom and I are going to go to the D&D store because they're having a sale on D&D dice.
Oh, I want D&D dice.
I want D&D dice. You should send us all D&D dice.
Yeah.
It'll be our 60th merch.
Yes.
What? You just roll with our different faces on it.
Yeah, literally just like a D whatever number with just like
our face inside the dice.
Oh yeah.
There we are. We're captured in the dice. Just little mini version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a D3, but it's just William Hartnell in there.
Oh, Hartnell.
Oh, most liberating.
Yeah, I think that's about it for the segment.
Great.
That's all the questions I have, at least.
No,
Unless there's anything else you guys want to add.
I think the best thing to do now for the listeners at home is to keep an eye out for all the various projects that will be coming out across 2023.
Yeah, and thank you for the love that you've been giving it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Thank you all.
And the projects will be coming out over different channels. Like I know there's some stuff coming out on Overton Audios that tie in, and I know there's something that's going to come out Dom on your channel that will tie in, and DWEM ties in a lot. So yeah, no, it's keep an eye out. I'll see you in a year.
Be seeing you, my friends.
Or for me, in like a couple seconds.
Welcome back to the podcast, and you're back here with myself and Eamon. We were kind of there. Well, I was kind of there for the DWEM talk.
Kind of there.
Well, I think I kind of gained more confidence as the section went on to talk more.
Yeah,
about it.
originally you were there. You were just to make sure George and I didn't say any weird shit again. But you got involved, and that was cool. And it was lovely to have the three of them on.
The moment I realised I shouldn't have spoken was when I introduced myself, and they went, "Oh, you're here too, are you?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm not then."
Oh no, you're allowed to be. we love you.
So it went, and I'm Connor Chadwick, and I play the Cravat Doctor, and you were like, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh."
Because right before you were like, I won't be speaking. I'm just here to supervise. And then you went, and I'm Connor Chadwick, and I play the Cravat Doctor. I was like, oh, so we are speaking. It's like, right before we pressed record, you were like, I will not be speaking. And then you spoke, and I was like, you liar.
Well, for me, it was a case of I leave it pauses before speaking to see if nobody else is talking, then I'll talk.
Yeah.
Literally George introduced himself, then there was like a 5-second pause, and I was like, I guess they're waiting for me.
I think we were in the end,
yeah. Right, anyway. So the comments reading.
Comments.
That's fun. So
yes,
I'll be reading comments from the Sherlock Holmes volumes, and there's a surprisingly nice little comment on one of the final ever episode of Time Traveller that was written only last night. Thomas Aidan James, who played Father Shaw in my in my audios, he's been in some of the Cravat Doctor stories anyway, and has been last year he was in Tortured Retrospective. He's been marathoning all 10 volumes of Time Traveller and the visual series too. So he's written one big comment at the end of on the final ever episode. So we'll read that in. And episode 3 only came out yesterday, so it's not really had an even spread. This is Sherlock Holmes episode 3 of volume 3. Hasn't had an even spread to be able to get some comments in. So we'll leave that for now and just replace that. So I will begin with Sherlock Holmes, and here we go. So here we're looking at volume 3, episode 1, The Man with the Twisted Lip. Only one comment from Michael Cox, otherwise known as Dr. Reddy Vivus. So I can finally say that still. I've still got the post-it note on my desk. It's the only way I can say it. Otherwise it's like Reviveriage.
Dr.
Yeah, and he says it's a wonderful version of Doyle's classic, and this was The Man with the Twisted Lip. And I remember this. I remember this story because as I was adapting it, because it was me and Aidan O'Connor who wrote this. I remembered suddenly that, oh wait, I saw Nathan Carter's Sherlock Holmes do a version of this before. And it's the version where, have you watched Nathan's Sherlock stuff?
Yeah.
You know,
big
you
fan
know
of
when
Nathan.
it's the story of walking down the street and looking up in the window and seeing, and this woman sees her husband hidden. I think that was one of his first episodes. I think it was
I think so.
Because it's the St. Clair. Miss St. Clair is in this. So it's the same thing. I think that one was written as the case of Neville Sinclair.
Yeah.
But with this volume, we adapt them to link more so into the overall story of Moriarty, which means we go on to the next episode, which is The Red Circle, which was written by me and you. Mainly you. Yeah. Mainly you.
I nearly just said me and me, but it was me and you.
Yeah. But then
I took you and turned it to me. Yeah. And then forgot to turn the me into a you.
And of course, Michael Cox commented again, saying an excellent adaptation. Keep up the great work, which I'm very grateful for. Volume 3 was a lot of planning, and it had, because they've always had a kind of different writers involved.
Yeah.
So it was nice to get as many.
I think that was my first script for you that wasn't Doctor Who. I think that's my only script for you so far that's not Doctor Who.
Possibly.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. I know everything I've written for you. I have a schedule. I have a list. I have a list so I can keep track of everything.
Indeed. And thus we move on to, like I said, episode 3's only just come out. People haven't had a real chance to watch. Yeah, it's got some views, but the people who we read the comments from, obviously, they sometimes arrive a couple of days late, or so, just due to life. So I'll read the comment from CSP, otherwise known as Thomas Aidan James, for Time Traveller Cataclysm, episode 12, A Better Tomorrow, as he's been messaging me and on the Overton Audios Discord, saying that how much he's enjoying it and giving little scores for each episode as we go. So here we go.
Yeah.
He says, "Oh man, what can I say? But well done for making this a very well done conclusion to the whole Time Traveller saga. How after having watched and listened to everything Time Traveller lately, it was so satisfying to get this kind of ending. Well done to both Connor and Dave. You have both ended this saga on the high it deserves." And of course, thank you very much for that, Thomas. Always appreciated. I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. It's interesting to get a perspective on someone, as obviously this comment doesn't fully reflect the amount of detail that he went into with me on the Discord, but him watching it back to back, we were always so key and wanting it to be a coherent story, even though it might have had the few months gaps as well. So he didn't seem to have an issue either way, so I'm very, very grateful for that. But yeah, those are the comments for awesome. Sherlock Holmes, and obviously following that is also a little bit of Time Traveller. What about yourself? What ones are you reading from today?
So I've got Transcending Time.
What, the recent one?
Return
Return
of the Palaxians. Yes. Return. Yeah. Oh, I thought it was Revenge, but I just found out it's Return. By Aidan O'Connor. So that's the one with George. Oh, George. I love George.
Oh, George.
Not George. And so we started this off with CSP, or Thomas, saying, when this was announced, I honestly thought I died and gone to heaven. The Eighth Doctor was my gateway into Big Finish, and to have him and Charlie in the same audio, it was like I was back in 2008. Ben and Abby really brought me back through time to their era with their performances. So great casting from Connor. And of course, it was great to hear George again after his big return last month, obviously, in Crimson Hunter. 2022 really seems like it's becoming the year for Blonde, isn't it? Year of Blonde, isn't it? He was amazing too. Just hearing his voice teamed up with Ben, the two made for a very odd Doctor couple, but it fit. Bravo to everyone involved. I hope the next Transcending Time will be as amazing as this one. It's really nice. I love George. Love George. And eight is always is so important to George. So it's awesome to see George get to do that. And that segues perfectly into this one because it's George.
Oh,
and Stability Productions. That's George. Hello, George. He said, Blonde and 8 team up. You've made my dream come true. Thanks for giving Blonde a new lease of life, and well done to everyone involved. Hope I get to face off with the Don again one day. George. Oh, we love George.
George.
Good old George. And he's brilliant in that. Can't wait to see George come back and do some more stuff. Always love George. Oh yeah, no. He's in the Last Universe, so he'll be in that.
Exactly.
And now I think he posted on his Instagram that Blonde is split over Prism and DWEM.
Yeah, there's 2 versions of him basically.
2 versions of Blonde, yeah. One that exists in Prism and one that exists in DWEM, which will be explained eventually. In continuity, but that means he gets double the content now.
There you go. It's even better.
Yeah.
More to
George.
play with. More to play with.
And then Michael Cox says, I think my fellow Doctor Who impressionists would agree with me when I say it's harder when one is relying wholly on the audio, as the visual component of impersonation is a big help in creating the illusion of the Doctor. So Ben O'Neill is to be commended for tackling one of the more difficult Doctor voices. Writer and actor Aidan O'Connor gives us a great story with danger and touches of humour, and treats us to a creepy voiced henchman who you certainly wouldn't want to meet down a dark alleyway. Aidan's script captures the essence of Charlie Pollard, and Abby Louise does it justice. It's nice to juxtapose the mostly upbeat personality of the Eighth Doctor with one of his later selves. Jaded is the word the Eighth Doctor uses to describe the Blonde Doctor, but wounded or haunted would also work. Since being from so far into the future, this Doctor has seen so much and lost so much, and his memories are dark and painful. It's a pity Michelle Willows wasn't available for this release, but Joseph Overton does a nice job bringing the Palexians to life.
Oh yeah, I mean Michelle's always. We have tried to get Michelle to do alien voices before, and I believe Michelle does do some in the first Doctor Adventures with Michael anyway. So I think off the top of my head that's what happens. I can't remember, but I know that she's not 100% with alien voices anyway. She can only really do her voice, and we add a bit of modulation to it, but it still sounds like her. So we try and balance it out as best we can.
But yeah, no, I agree with everything he says. Ben does a great job, and Abby's incredible, and George is George. I love George. And then the next one I've got is the trailer for Lost in Time, the first Doctor volume that you've got coming out, which is really helpful for me because really coincidental for me because I'm binging the first Doctor at the moment. We literally stopped Keys of Marinus so we could do the podcast. I've now seen the first 4 episodes of the Keys of Marinus twice. Never the last 2. Much to your dismay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Lost in Time. So Michael Cox comments going, naturally, I've heard this before already, but I was so excited to listen to it now and genuinely had goosebumps. The 30th of November can't come quickly enough. Of course, and you know, if you've been hiding under a rock, he plays the first Doctor in this. He's on the cover. And then Dak Cabrera replies to him going, oh, hey, congrats on this new project. I recognize you from previous work. Good job. And yeah, it's lovely to see.
Well, this is all part of a comment thread, isn't it? So Michael's written that, and then Dak has responded, and then he's responded again.
Yeah. Saying many thanks. It's been a wonderful opportunity to work with Overton Audios.
And it is always a pleasure to work with Michael Cox.
Yes.
A master and a scholar till the end.
He's lovely. We love him. I've never met him, but I love him. Peter writing things says, can't wait.
Well, that's good.
Yes, well, you won't have to for
always appreciate
much
Peter.
longer. Yes. He died into the things he is writing. Yes. And then Ben Miller says, love the impression of Hartnell. To which Michael responds, many thanks. I do my best. I'm still learning more and more about his speech pattern. And then Ben responds, it's always a good working progress.
Well, that's something that Michael talked about in the podcast last month, is that he's not actually trying to do a full, accurate impression. He's trying to capture the essence of the characters. So, the voice, like they said, the voice, I think to me, when I hear that voice, I still hear Hartnell. I still hear the First Doctor. But Michael's intention is not to become William Hartnell playing the role. It's to his interpretation of the character. It's what he sees. So whilst, he can't talk like he does, and he has to take some vocal impressions. I don't want to say too much. You should really go and listen to the last podcast. I do now have chapters in it now, so you can just skip to that section now. But it's just a case of Michael takes us so seriously and passionately, so he's not looking to do, as far as we were talking about at the time, he's not looking to try and take over or achieve that 100%. It's an interpretation as opposed to the impression.
Yeah,
which I still appreciate. And the main thing is, a lot of people hear it and still hear the First Doctor anyway. Obviously, that's also why we use his photo for the covers as well. He has the costume. It enables us to get different variants for that Doctor, and effectively he is the First Doctor for Prism, whilst also we can still emulate what the First Doctor is effectively. So speaking of doctors, and as I've just been talking about my favorite Doctor, we might as well go to the section where I talk all about me, really, and Cravat with the next. So, or maybe should I say not Cravat? And we'll see why in that section.
Yes. Yes, we will.
Overton Audios presents.
Who was that man?
Which man?
The Doctor.
The Doctor's here.
Well, not really.
Sorry?
Doctor, it's you.
You must have been confused with someone else. What Doctor? Doctor who? Access has been attempted to the ship known as TARDIS.
Doctor!
This is the TARDIS interface.
Oh. So where's the Doctor?
You're stopping me from leaving. What do you want?
Look, listen.
Is this about that Doctor guy thing that you mentioned downstairs? You think I'm him? I'm not. I'm an architect. My name is Ben. How many times?
Professor Chaddy.
What?
My name is Fraser Ward. I'm with Torchwood. Get in. Ah, you must be him.
Excuse me, I'm in the middle of a conversation.
You know full well that you're in danger.
Just because I look like your old friend doesn't mean that I am.
How does the Doctor get his memories back?
The enemy are coming for him. He is vulnerable. You must act immediately. Doctor Who, The Cravat Doctor Adventures. Earthbound. Coming the 10th of December 2022 at 12 p.m.
Phoebe, what happened to this place?
The Doctor crashed. It's a long story, and in a moment he might be able to tell you.
Hello, welcome back to the Overton Audios podcast. And I am here. My name is Connor Chadwick.
I am here.
And here is Eamon. As we explained earlier, or what will be our future, this segments are still going to have us in them. We're talking about Cravat Doctor, adventures, the new volume specifically called Earthbound. But before we do that, we're about maybe an hour fresh off of the new companion reveal at Children in Need 2022.
Yes.
What do you think on the casting, Eamon?
I don't know who the fuck she is, but I like it. I think it's cool. My mum knows who she is. My mum's addicted to Corro, so I texted my mum and went, Kelly from Corro is Doctor Who's companion, and she went, "Oh, that's cool." And then I said her name is Ruby Sunday, and she went, "That's a cool name." And then I said she's younger than I am, and she went, "But the name wouldn't suit you." And
stop trying to steal her thunder, Eamon.
Yeah, I was like, Mum, come on. Disappointed in you.
Yeah.
Bad joke. And she'll listen to this, and she knows that I'm disappointed in her joke, because I sent her a gif of Andy Samberg standing there with disappointed steer.
Oh, dear.
But no, I like her. I think she looks cool.
I mean, personally, I've never watched Coronation Street, but it's not a bad thing for companions to come from soaps. You know, we've had, well, Freema Agyeman was in Crossroads. We've
Jenna
had,
was in Emmerdale.
Yeah. And Mandip Gill was in Hollyoaks. And I think it's important.
David Tennant was in Casanova.
Yeah, exactly. Very relatable for Doctor Who. but nonetheless, I feel that with when it comes to the companions, they have to come from a place of relatability for the audience. So, you know, when we've seen, like, for example, like everyone's gone, "Oh, I know her from Corrie," or "I don't know her from Corrie." But when you watch scenes of what she's in, it's a soap opera, so it's meant to be relatable. It's meant to have that element of you can connect with that person, and thus, if you already know them from Corrie, and then they're playing a real person, you already have that connection because you watch them every night or every other night, depending on when it's on.
Yeah.
With the casting of Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, you have that ability to cast high and mighty with it, and in a much larger and more punchy fashion. Because the story, realistically, I've always felt with Doctor Who, the story should be from the perspective of the companions. Like, you can have storylines about the Doctor, but you have to have the companions discovering this. Like how Rose would find out more about the Time War from the Ninth Doctor, and would allow the Doctor through her, and she would actually begin to, you know, in series 2, she would also begin to change into him and show the other side of things. Martha and Donna, all the companions have tried to be that human mercy sort of side for the Doctor.
Yeah.
And you just need someone relatable, and you need someone who's well known with casual viewers, especially, because that's something that I think has really always been needed. Because you know the fans of Doctor Who are going to watch regardless, but you need something that will make new people tune in. And obviously, with it being on Disney Plus now, having you know, people who, for example, it's the casting of Ncuti has helped. For example, Netflix Sex Education is more popular than ever. Because Doctor Who fans have gone, "Oh, okay, I don't know anything about this show. I've heard of it. Let's go and watch it." And with her, I never really watched any of Coronation Street. I think, actually, wasn't it last night we were watching clips from the tram crash?
It was, yeah.
Because we were actually watching clips of Coronation Street. So even you have some context now. She might not even.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Coronation Street. I haven't seen it in years. I watched it back when that chick from Last Christmas was in it.
Who? I never watched. I didn't. Bear in mind, I didn't watch Last Christmas until this year.
Oh, fair enough. I don't know how to describe her without just coming off as slightly racist.
Great, we'll keep that in. Moving on.
It's the three people.
No, Eamon, you've said enough. It's fine. We now know how you feel. We know who you mean. You don't need to say anything.
Connor.
It's all right. So anyway, the Cravat Doctor volume, Earthbound. Now, I understand you'll be asking me some questions on this, Eamon.
So in Last Christmas, there were the 3 workers in that Arctic base. There was the white blonde girl, the black girl, and then the old white man. Oh, and then there was an older white woman as well. There were 4 of them. The black girl was on Coronation Street, and she had a subplot 2016 to do with domestic abuse, but she was the one abusing her husband. That's the bits of Coronation Street I've watched. So if anyone knows what that is how long it's been since I've watched Coronation Street. And it's only because I went, oh, that's interesting, I'll watch this segment. And then they finished that segment of the show and I went, I'm not interested anymore. I don't care. That was the only real plot line I had any kind of interest in. I wanted to see how they would gonna handle that. But she looks wonderful and I think she's gonna be really cool. And it's weird that she was born, 2 months before Christopher Eccleston started filming series 1?
Yeah, anyway. We don't think about that.
We are old now.
I'm 28 next year.
I'm not.
So, Cravat Doctor Adventures. So, yes, the next volume, the second volume of the second Cravat Doctor volume of the year, that also helps close it out. Earthbound. Yes. Now, Eamon, I understand, Eamon, you've got a few questions for me.
I do have a couple questions for you, Connor. So in the volume, why does Cravat die? No.
Okay.
Spoiling things that aren't even real.
Yeah.
So obviously, Connor.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
This is the second in the kind of new era of Cravat. Because kind of Resurrection ended series 4, and so now it's going into the volumes. So what's the deal, Connor? What was the idea? What
are you talking about?
I had no prep time for these questions.
We finished the storyline of Doctor Who Resurrection, and then we still had a bit more to tell, so we decided to split them up into around. I think we've got planned 6 volumes. I think 6 overall, and this is the second one, so we're already a third of the way there. The plan is after these 6 volumes, that Cravat will be regenerating. There is a plan for that. This volume does allude to the fact that there are some things that have happened in actual other Cravat Doctor adventures that link to the regeneration.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a couple of people since about this volume because obviously they've seen the thumbnail. I suppose the cover art, and it's not the Cravat Doctor. And when this goes out, the trailer would have already aired, and you'll see that I don't play the Cravat Doctor in this volume, but it's set within the Cravat Doctor's era.
Yeah.
Because we've got Patrick and Professor Chaddy returning after a 2-year break, which they appeared in Doctor Who Resurrection Series 4, Episode 8, and then Episodes 11 and 12, which was technically only 4 episodes ago for the Cravat Doctor era. But in terms of but we gave Cravat that year off, and then we've had him with 3 episodes of Cravat Doctor and the Rani, and then we've got this volume with both of them in, and the aim is that they are there because they're on Earth. We've established them already, and they're connected to the Cravat Doctor. But of course, they've met the Cravat Doctor, but not really the Cravat Doctor. It's an architect called Ben Smith. Patrick has, since losing his job, he has assisted the building architect of a building next door to him, which obviously they live in a place called the Gasholder Triplets. They've built a second set next door, and he's been working on that whilst being able to work from home whilst he's been trying to find full-time employment. So they get invited to a nice event to announce the opening of the building formally after it's been built and finished. And in that crowd is one of the architects and the architects team who helped for that. And that architect looks exactly like the Doctor. He just wears glasses. He's got shirt, tie, and a blazer on. It's like he's like a variant of that Doctor. And obviously, as we've explained in other things, we are doing multiversal elements anyway in the Cravat Doctor volumes because of the fallout of High Society parts 1 and 2 at the end of Resurrection. The Doctor also alluded to this in Robert's Christmas Adventure, that he was still cleaning up problem and damages from what happened. So he is in this current position trying to fix things and figure things out. So there is something at play there, but yeah, that's not the Cravat Doctor.
Oh.
So it was interesting to play.
Yeah. It's always good to kind of get a different experience.
Well, yeah, because Cravat's always been very well-spoken and posh, and not that, this guy isn't, but I got to kind of use, like in the same way that Cravat would be like, do not do that, but then I can now just go, don't do that. Those little bits of dialogue changes and have also helped I think they helped me as well, because it was able to kind of make the performance more like a human being. Because it is one, for starters. I get to play finally just an ordinary guy who's dragged into this world. I feel like kind of like a weird secondhand companion to the companions.
So
that's the first 2 episodes, because this podcast will actually be coming out 3 days before episode 1. So episode 1 will already been announced. This is the first 2-parter called The Lost Man, and then there's a second 2-parter, which, as we've seen from the cover arts, is got Ice Warriors in.
That's exciting.
And that's called Cryonics, parts 1 and 2. We kind of thought we'd lead in with a few more 2-parters, because I enjoyed doing that with High Society, and you get the chance to develop the story massively as a result, because you end up getting basically a double-length episode, really, by spreading it across 2 parts. Which is really, really good and really nice to try. I believe it's something that we'll try and keep up with. I think the volume after this one that's coming out is also 2-parters. But no, it's looking good, and having Peter M. George back as Patrick Chaddy and Adele Jane Harris as Professor Chaddy was also great. They're great, and obviously, as you've probably seen from the cover, I'm probably answering all of the questions you plan to ask, but I'm doing it.
I was do it anyway. Just rattling off everything.
Fraser Ward, Captain Fraser Ward appears. But it's important. It's obviously, in terms of continuity, it's important to note that this isn't Fraser from like Rebirth or Nexus or anything that we've got planned. This is him from 2024. So this is him about 10 years in the future from when we're currently doing his story. So we don't delve too much into his backstory or anything, because we tie ourselves down with continuity at that point. We obviously mentioned a team and everything like that, but he's still himself, and he knows the Doctor, obviously. By this point, he knows that the Doctor, he's met the Doctor by this point, and obviously, as we're currently watching through the Torchwood volumes, he's not yet done that. So it's an interesting one.
So regarding the Ice Warriors, we'll just double back to them real quick. Because you've done one Ice Warrior story before?
War of the Schalke,
So what was the kind of idea behind bringing them back? Well, did you always know that they were going to come back at some point?
Funnily enough, these 2 stories that are in this volume are based off of 2 of my original fan films I made in 2008. So The Lost Man is based on a story I wrote where you had someone who looked exactly like the Doctor as well. But I've just adapted it, and rather than it being a 2 10-minute episodes made by a 12-year-old, it's now more like an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half of story. With the next one, Cryonics, that was written by an old friend of mine who, back in my early fan film days, was doing all that, and he wrote that for me. So unfortunately, whilst I don't have the original script, I do have the original episodes that I shot, and I've just tried to make sense of it from that. So that's written by a guy called Joe Daly. I've credited him as well because it was his concept, and I've kept the majority of the concept. I've just upscaled it because obviously in 2008, all I had was my house, and that was it. So we obviously, with the appearance of Fraser Ward and everything, that kind of sets us and develops us more in the shared universe. But overall, it's still mainly the same concept. So I thought about doing it because of mainly because it was basing it off of the original fan films that I made, and they had Ice Warriors in them. But I also thought it would be fun.
Yeah. Oh, so Ice Warriors are always quite fun to bring in.
Indeed. Yeah.
Regarding, so this is volume 2 out of 6, you said?
Yes.
Yeah. So where do you see Cravat going? Going further?
Well, the next volume's pretty much completely written. I just have to go through and script edit it. There's a 2-parter written by you. And there's another 2-parter that got written for me 4 years ago.
Wow.
But it featured companions. These companions I had planned. I had planned ages ago. It's just obviously I wanted to take that year break from Cravat, and then obviously since I made these plans, obviously we've started working with so many different people, like yourself, James Sutton. Obviously we're also working with George now. Like, so much more content has come in that the gaps between them have just stretched out longer now. So whilst the plan's still there and the plan can still happen, it's just going to take longer to get there. So that's why those scripts are about 4 years old. But that's why I need to script edit, because it's 4 years ago, and obviously my way of doing things has changed a lot since then. So it's written by Charlie. The first 2-parter of that next volume is written by Charlie Patricks, who wrote Schiller's Delicatessen in Resurrection season 4. So he wrote that in 2019. So I say it's 4 years old. I know we aren't officially there yet, but by the time it comes out, it will be a 4-year-old story that was written by someone who was just starting their GCSEs and now will be finishing college and going into university. That is how long it's taken. He's gone through his exams and then another exam period and is now potentially moving out to start university. I don't know what he's doing, but I hear from him every now and again, and he does ask what's going on with it, and I say it is planned. Yeah, but no, that next volume
work far and ahead.
Well, yeah, we've in the next podcast, obviously, we'll be talking about the releases that are to come out. Dan has now edited that little visual effect of all the things lined up for next year, so that's stuff we can talk about next time, and that will feature the title of the next Cravat Doctor volume. But no, there are plans and there are rough things in mind. Yeah, indeed.
What's going on?
I'm talking with you on Zoom.
You are, and I always value that.
Next question, please.
I think you just answered.
It was just you were just sat there smiling at me, and I'm like, yes, hello.
I think you answered pretty much everything I was going to bring up. So regarding this, you've explained that it's a kind of one-off thing with Patrick and Phoebe and Ben
Smith, yes.
Ben Smith, yeah. Okay. So how connected to the overall story of Cravat is this? Because it's still got Cravat Doctor Adventures on it.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it a one-off. I'd probably call it something that, like an event. Because it will tie into the overall story. I will say this, because I've said this to somebody else when somebody asked me on Instagram, who's like the #1 fan of Cravat. There is a flashback scene with Cravat in it. So I do play Cravat in it, but it's in the flashback. Because at the end of High Society Part 2, after Carly Turner has departed, there's a bit of a time jump for Cravat anyway, because he's no longer with the Rani, so he's not actually gone to the wedding yet, really. That's a later thing. But there is a scene later where, with Patrick and Professor Chaddy, they go to the wedding with the Cravat Doctor because Carly is getting married, and it's her 20 years later now having synced up with Patrick and Professor Chaddy. the flashback that they experience or talk about is about the wedding. So they talk about the last time they saw the Doctor and how he was he in good spirits, was he not? He seemed happy, he seemed melancholic. You know, they talk about how he was. So they flash back to that scene and other extra little bits that are in there as well.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to work out if this guy's the Doctor or not.
Yeah.
And obviously, thus there's a little flashback. Because I felt like I couldn't call it the Cravat Doctor Adventures if there wasn't a flashback to a scene that had already been recorded. If there wasn't the Cravat Doctor appearing.
Yeah.
In some shape or form, whether it be in old content or not, you know. But it is connected overall with regards to the next volume following on and everything. This will be the only volume that does it like this.
Yeah.
The story does connect to the I suppose you could call the arc of the 6 volumes. And we're trying to keep it like a simplistic arc in a way, because obviously it's multiple episodes per volume. It's not like just a series.
Yeah.
We are treating, however, each for example, these episodes in Earthbound are technically episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Series 5. We're classing, even though they're in volumes and under different titles, we're classing each year as a series now.
Oh, fair.
So next year, with the other volume I've mentioned, that'll be Series 6, technically. No matter how short it is, it's just easier to pack in rather than going Series 4, then names. You know, you could just call them what they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a connection. Yes, that's what the answer to your original question was.
Yeah. And then of course you've revealed Ice Warriors are the second 2-parter. So the Lost Man, who's the villains of that? Who are showing up in that?
Well, obviously,
You just say no. You're just like no.
I said oh. I went oh. So obviously, there's a through line mystery.
Yes.
Of what's going on with this guy. There is a villain.
Sick. Cool. And I guess we're leaving it at that.
Yes.
Awesome. There is a villain. Cool.
Well, people are going to find out in 3 days when this comes out. It's the cliffhanger.
Oh, true. Oh, true.
And then the part 2 cover will have who the villain is on it.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
As the story develops further, you start realizing, actually, this I will point out, human man.
Yeah.
It's a case of mistaken identity.
Yeah.
That's it, really. Like with the whole thing with the villain, it's a case of mistaken identity.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I really like that.
And that is all questions I've been given.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this.
Thank you for listening.
We're going to return, aren't we, to ourselves in the future?
Yeah. We're going to hand it back over to future Eamon. And
who knows what we'll know by then? What will have happened on the 23rd of November?
True. I think costume reveal.
We'll make a note in the podcast when we write up our little script. We'll make a note that you said this, and then we can the next section, if we remember to do it, and it will be really awful if we don't. But we'll have the next section start with you going yes or no.
Yeah. So we'll end the segment with me going, future Eamon, did we get a costume reveal?
Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed me probably talking more than I should have, considering it wasn't my segment, which was Eamon's segment, wasn't it? And then I just answered all of your questions before you'd asked.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And then gave me new questions to ask, and then refused to answer one of them. You were like, ask me what villain is in the first episode, and I asked and you went, no. And I was like, why did you give me the question?
Yeah. But yeah, we that's obviously the last release of 2022 now. Just left now, that last Cravat volume. Obviously, we've got the Mastermind Christmas Special coming up also, but we'll be covering that later.
Yes.
Oh my God, I don't know what's made it so much more difficult making audios. I said that earlier in this podcast, but
yeah,
despite the fact that I've got more guest writers than I ever have before, the production of it's been so much more difficult. I don't know if it's just my poor timing or whether or not the last releases of this year pulled me back a lot. I know that obviously Transcending Time with Return of the Palaxians wasn't planned. You know, the stuff with Transcending Time and the what was it, time or I think it was Time of or Time and I can't remember, the one with 10 and Little Red in, that one was released very quickly because of the split that we did. So I don't know if that then pushed forward Return of the Palaxian. So I know there was just a lot of things that weren't planned to come out suddenly coming out. Then there was just a lot of moving parts. I feel that in the last part of this year, that meant that we couldn't move on to 2023 as quickly as I would have liked. But nonetheless, you know, we've got quite a bit done now. We're covered for the next, I think, 4 or 5 months. I just want to make sure that we can get it all done and to a good standard so that I feel kind of safe and secure. I still don't feel completely safe and secure, but like some of the things we've announced have been are either completely done or have been written in some shape or form and are yet to undergo either the recording process or the editing process. But we know that they're happening. So like I've had to put them in there. This one's been a bit more of a careful consideration. So obviously, like last year, I put out a little video about what's coming up in 2023. So why don't we take a little look into what's coming up?
Take a look, absolutely.
Wow!
Wow!
We said that really sarcastically. It's just because we watched
good to watch that. Yeah,
we watched it.
We watched it earlier, but like
not now.
For us, it was just a dead silence for a couple seconds.
Yeah. So first things first, I've talked about this before, and I think it's a bit more of an open secret now because I've kind of told everyone in some shape or form that it's happening. But Doctor Who Divergence, which is a multiversal story set across, I think, about overall 11 different universes. Well, it's actually technically 12. I'm yet to decide what happens at the end. I've still got a year to figure that out. But basically, it's a story about a wave of energy that is flying across the multiverse. It's a massive multiversal wave that's wiping out every multiverse, every type of universe out there. We begin with the first story with an alternate version of the First Doctor who never left Gallifrey, and he became a Matrix observer and coordinator. And one day he notices a little spike in the Matrix, and it's telling him that, oh, Gallifrey and all things are about to die. So I took a lot of inspiration from that, from the beginning of Man of Steel, where someone who goes, we need to stop this, we're going to destroy Krypton, but instead it's the Doctor going to the High Council, but nobody believes it because they think that the Doctor never went off anywhere. They've had rogues in the past that they've stopped, but they've not. With the Doctor, the Time Lords accepted that sometimes the Doctor can be a good thing. Eventually, it took them a while, but they accepted it. But here, they've never had to face those things. They've just kind of seen it as renegades and everything as criminals and lower class. So they have that high and mighty view, and they find themselves in that problem. Another character who's involved, because the alternate First Doctor, as I'm calling him, he ends up going on a journey across the multiverse as this wave is destroying everything, and he's trying to gather a group of people together to effectively create, because obviously if you created a group of people in your own universe, there's a variant where you failed, so etc. So there's never anything that entirely works, whereas his thought process is create a team of people from across the multiverse. Therefore, this is a one of a kind, no variants, nothing. This is one team.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, he needs to make something that can never be overwritten, you know? And obviously, we will find out what the origin of the energy wave is. And it's a very specific niche reference, but I hope people enjoy it. And people will see where it originally, came from and everything like that. And when they do see that, it'll be something that's like, oh, that's true, actually. Because it's very much similar. And it isn't this, by the way. But it's like when they said about Journey's End, about when they mentioned the multiverse and everything, with Davros doing the reality bomb. If he's talking about going across multiverses, and therefore there is a version of the universe where the wave succeeded. And obviously that's not going to be picked up, but it's in the vein of that. This energy wave has come from something, a previous story that we've done, where it was something was stopped. And this is from another universe where they didn't basically stop it. So it's a nice little reference. It's not just a random thing. It has got a reference. So it is something that we kind of thought about. And that's a monthly series coming out from January. It's on the 1st of every month. You'll have a new episode. There's going to be no trailer for it because it's still in production. So there's no real trailer I can make for it that would do it any justice, anything like that. It'll be coming out monthly all the way till December. We have obviously got an Overton Audios or Prism 60th planned. This Divergence thing is just a whole year thing, so the finale's in December anyway, like basically the week after the 60th anyway. And that'll be very fun. I'm really enjoying it so far. We've got round about half of it completely finished now, and the rest of it, we've got another 3 episodes just currently being recorded, so we are very near the end of it now. That might also be the thing that's really held us up in terms of production between 23. It's just that's been a very strict regime of it has to be out monthly, whereas the other ones you can kind of focus as one big like project. So the next project, which will lead us into the next segment, is Mastermind Volume 2, which is happening in January. Now, obviously, we're not talking about the whole of Volume 2 today, or in this particular podcast, because that's coming out next month, and we have to have something to talk about next month in the podcast. So we will be talking about the fuller Volume 2 next month. However, I had a little chat with you, at least about the Christmas special, didn't I? Which is coming out this month.
The Christmas... No. Oh, yes. I forgot that. Yes. No, I forgot that this goes out in December, and I was like, it's November. But yes. No, this month. I'm not smart.
Cool. Anyway, shall we have a listen to that?
Yes.
Overton Audios presents.
On the planet Christmas, a world not unlike your own, there happened a story you need hear to believe.
The time of year again. They've started. I can hear it. Blasted songs of those happy individuals. Why won't they stop? Don't they get the message?
Oh my god. Is that a door? You said he didn't exist. He doesn't. The master isn't real.
I know. The infamous master, once again the man on the hill.
I'm sure most of you have heard about the tragic events that occurred last night at Edit's post office. The death of little Sinley has left us all broken and sad on this Christmas Eve.
If I had known how easy it would be to sneak in, I would have done it all these years ago.
He's the one who stole our Christmas.
And you really think you can stop me? You and your puny weapons?
Do you feel remorse for what you did? What you did to my daughter? You killed her!
I feel nothing for her. She was a little brat and died all the same.
Mastermind. How the Master Stole Christmas. Coming the 25th of December 2022 at 12 p.m. Welcome back to the podcast, and I am joined by, who else would it be? It would be Eamon Longman.
It's me again.
Yeah,
I was just here, and now I'm back.
Indeed, and this time, because obviously we'll have mentioned this earlier in the podcast, especially when introducing it, this month is filled with releases that are made by that either feature me as the Doctor or you've written for Mastermind, and this is the Mastermind one. How the Master Stole Christmas. Now, from what I remember, from what I remember of the original plan for this, I've kind of made it a bit of an open secret that we are making at least 4 volumes of Mastermind, because there's a running joke that we've had about how the production of that has been quite an interesting one. So you, at this point, I think, had already written those volumes, and there were still ideas that you had, but you couldn't quite fit in. I remember that you and John wanted to do a musical at one point, but that would involve writing the songs and everything like that, and trying to make that work somehow. But then I remember that you and John said, "Or maybe a Christmas special." And I looked, and I hadn't actually I don't remember if I had, or maybe I cancelled something. I don't know, but I don't think the Christmas special had been fit in for this year yet. And you'd asked me a good time in advance for that as well. So as a result, you were able to do this How the Master Stole Christmas as a prelude to all the stuff you've then mass written, because you were able to kind of be the most disconnected as possible.
Yeah.
So obviously this is based on How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but you're putting the Master as the Grinch / Scrooge like character, and as we hear as well, you're also narrating it. You're being like the
I play Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. Was that, I mean, how was it writing it? And obviously, but you always had in mind that you'd be narrating it. I remember you telling me, don't cast anyone to narrate it, it's me.
It started off as I was like, he'll probably cast someone else. It was the point when I was writing, and those were the most stressful fucking lines to write.
Well, the narrator ones.
Yeah. Because I had to rhyme every sentence that he said.
Yes, you did, didn't you?
So I originally didn't plan on having them rhyme, and I was like, that'll be just easy for someone else to do. And then I just had to put so much effort into having to make every single line work, and all the monologues flow and rhyme. And by the end of it, I was just like, those lines put me through so much stress, Connor. I want to voice it just so I can get something out of those damn lines.
Yeah.
Through so much stress.
And there's also this running joke about your stories, which is why a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, you had Eamon write all of them." Bear in mind, by the way, you pitched all 3 volumes to me way in advance. You were like, "Can I write these?" And we thought it'd be spaced out. We thought it'd be
Volume 2 was pitched to you, I think, the same day or around the day we did the first podcast that I was ever on.
Oh.
And then volumes 3 and 4 were pitched a couple weeks after that. I think I wrote volume 2.
So that would have been
volumes 3 and 4.
I keep having this kind of weird Mandela effect, because the first thing you ever wrote for me was Falling, but it wasn't the first thing that ever came out. So that would have been Crimson Hunter volume 2. So that would have been October last year.
Yeah.
So 11 months or 13 months ago. But also,
because you were on a Zoom call and you were scrolling through your schedule, and that's when you put me onto writing Crimson Hunter Volume 3 episode. Can you hear the lawnmower in the background?
No.
Okay, good. I was like,
you've made that part impossible to cut now.
Well, good. Now people will know that my flatmate does in fact cut the lawns.
I was like, when you said that, I was like, we're not going to be able to cut this part.
That was the same day that you gave me volume 3 episode 1 of Crimson Hunter, because you're just scrolling through your schedule and you're like, "Do you want to write this?" And I was like, "Sure." And I think
it was also because it was getting
Sherlock
towards
by that point.
Yeah, you were just kind of like, got nothing to do. Can I have something to do? And I'm like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. No, yeah, okay, yeah, that was around that time. But then you had ideas for other volumes, and they were just, I think the original. We're going off subject here. We need to talk about this really next month when Volume 2, the rest of Volume 2 is coming out. But you had quite a few ideas. You had quite a few ideas for moving forward with the volume. Oh, I can hear the lawnmower now.
Okay, I'll mute them. I'll close the window then.
But nonetheless, we did talk a lot about that, and with that volume, and the reasons why we've recorded so many far in advance. That will be revealed to you, audience, next month when we talk about Volume 2. Now, obviously, about the Christmas special more specifically, you tried to keep it as clear as possible. Did you? Which Grinch story were you saying you basing off of? The Jim Carrey one, really? Was that your main inspiration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watch the Jim Carrey one every year, so.
And then instead of having like the way a Grinch had a dog, the Master has a hyena.
Yeah.
Which I like, and he's still called Max, isn't he?
Max, yes, that is the name of the dog, and then the hyena.
But instead of him causing havoc and stealing the presents and everything like that, I think he still does something to that effect.
Does technically. I think he still technically does go and steal the presents.
Yeah, but
and stuff. Spoilers.
But instead of like upsetting people, he just ends their lives.
Yeah, he's not there to cause chaos. He's there to just murder some people and then.
Well, that does in itself cause chaos, but he's not just causing upset. He's not just causing upset of physical materials. He is creating loss of life at Christmas. So
yeah.
But I mean, how else would we have it? When we did Mastermind Volume 1, you wrote the first ever episode. You wrote The Man on the Hill. Well, I think it's quite ironic and quite funny that Dan wrote the most light-hearted episode of Mastermind, and yet it's called At Universe's End.
Yeah.
And yet it's all about... It's just a nice little story there. But then John obviously has written The Bodies in the Water and Old MacDonald. That was an idea he had for ages. I think I pitched the idea to him because I watched some stuff on TikTok to do with SCPs. And then, of course, we go on to the Christmas special where we basically, I think Mastermind, especially with John's era, John's such a chaotic doctor anyway, that there was a storyline that was talked about with John when talking about Mastermind Volume 1 about how his master is craving power.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't the master for a long time, and now he is, and he's just craving. When someone takes a break from something and has to return to something, and they're not as good as they were, or someone else is now number one. And obviously, you wrote Man on the Hill anyway. This keeps those same themes of staying down that dark path because John's master craves for that power. He wants to become the person he was again, but the world and the universe that he's in has moved on without him since. He used to be able to, he used to know his place in the universe, and now he's just come back and gone, I know who I am again. This is me, but nothing works the right way anymore. It's been thousands of years for him since he was last considering himself as the master, and now he's trying to gain any foothold where he can. And certainly I would consider now, Volume 1 was very much, even though we have Man on the Hill that was meant to be a pilot, Mastermind Volume 1 is technically, even though it's 3 episodes, Man on the Hill was actually episode 1, really, and the other ones were 2, 3, and 4. They got delayed because nobody else could write them on time, basically. Which is why we still had yours come out in October of, was it October 2021? And then we've had Then this year, as of recording this in November 2022, we had the rest of Volume 1 come out in May. This is now full 4 episodes from now on, and obviously it's actually more of a through line, isn't it? This is actually a prelude into what leads into Volume 2, and Volume 2 to 4 is something much, much larger. But what sort of elements do you look upon when thinking about how John's master fits into these sort of stories? Are there any particular masters you look at for reference? Like, obviously I know we've got Big Finish stories, like we've got the McQueen master, we've got the War master, Missy.
I base what I write him I base how I write John's master a lot on the War master.
Makes sense.
I base it a lot on Derek Jacobi's performance. I also think that's how John performs a lot of the time.
No, yeah, I can see that.
So I think I think the two work really well together, and the War Master is no secret my favorite master. So, I write a lot of I write every episode of Mastermind is written like it would be Derek Jacobi.
Yeah,
you can easily give Derek Jacobi one of those scripts and it would work. But I also just think there's aspects of, I'd say, John Sim, Delgado. Like there's aspects of all the masters.
No, of course. Everyone's got kind of like a scene they think of when they think of every master. And the same that when you think of the Doctor, there's always a scene that you go, I liked that Doctor then. Like, for example, like an example, it's about the Doctor here. I made it no secret at all that the 11th Doctor is actually my least favourite. But my favourite scene of his is actually the Rings of Akaten speech, because you believe everything he's saying. Like, he looks like, because with that particular scene, it's like a man who's had to be okay when he's not, and he's just speaking the truth for the first time. He's a young man, looks, or no, he said he was not. No, the saying is he's an old man in a young man's body. So he's talking his age. He's tearful. Everything you should never see. He's always having to keep that upper lip, that stiff upper lip. Almost Hartnell-esque in a way.
Yeah.
He's kind of like on a reversal, isn't he? Like now he's having to be like, the Doctor has become more and more actually like the first Doctor in terms of keeping the secrets and everything, but not because he's a grumpy old man, but because he has to. Whereas with the Master's got to have an element of that. I mean, how long can he look for universal domination before he just goes, I don't think this is for me? Or is it because it's all he's got left?
Yeah.
After everything. That's the kind of tragedy I like about the Master, is that the Doctor travels because they love to look at everything, and they just end up, sometimes just by circumstance, they end up trapped in the middle of a situation that they want to fix because they don't want bad feelings. But the Master has a goal that can be achieved. It's finite. Once achieved, they have power.
Yeah.
What do you mean by Monster has a goal that can be achieved? It's fine. I want to cheat. They have power.
These bloody Apple Watches, man. I swear to God.
The Apple Watch knobs.
Yeah, but that's the thing with John's Master. He gave that up. It was the incarnation before him, I believe, who completely gave up that life and decided to become that Time Lord General. But oddly, I refer to Missy, that's not the odd part, and Cruella de Vil for his change back into the Master. Do you know what I mean when I say Cruella de Vil?
Yeah.
Was it 101 Dalmatians? Yeah. When she goes good and then she starts, like, her nails grow and everything's Dalmatian, and then she's like cackling and laughing. It's the madness clicking back in. I think the Master's gone to a point of he can be really articulate and actually be clear-minded, but his goals are created out of his insanity, and maybe he's just been driven mad. But in this sense, John's Master is actually, I think he's got a heavy level of, he has a delight in hurting people, but I think there's also a depression there about lack of control.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that's certainly explored in Volume 2, especially in the finale of Volume 2, and I feel like that's something that's interesting to have a look at as well, because he wants to have that status back, and he's lost everything, so he's actually got more to achieve now, which is giving him more of a purpose and a drive to at least get back to where he was.
Yeah, it's been a while for him since he's been the Master.
Yeah, because obviously at the end of High Society, at the end of Transcendence, he became the Master again. Then we have Series 4 of Doctor Who Resurrection, where he worked with the Rani, the 20 for the Black Guardian. And then he gets captured and arrested, and now he's got out again. How long is he going to be out for? Is he only trying to find power so that he can defend himself from any potential enemies? Or, you know what I mean, is he just trying to find purpose again? And obviously, we saw a significant time gap in Mastermind Volume 1, where the first 2 episodes, if you class it as that, which Man on the Hill and That Universe's End, are him immediately after High Society. Man on the Hill was a few decades, but Man on the Hill then immediately after is That Universe's End. But then there's a significant gap where he actually gets older. Like, he gets a bit older, he gets grayer and everything like that. And obviously you're going to see from the cover art for How the Master Stole Christmas that he's used a bit of hair dye now. Because he's still got the goatee, he's still got the glasses now. but ultimately his hair's a little bit more black, like it was before.
Yeah.
I thought it was important to age up John's master, because John's master has just never had the goatee, and John's, when he was recording this, was quite young anyway, wasn't he? He's been playing the masters between the ages really of, he's now 18, 19 now, so he's been like the last 4 or 5 years. So it was important to age him up because he sounds so different as well. When you look at this in comparison to what his first recording was, so much has changed.
So different.
Another question is, why do you write so many characters into your scripts?
World building. It's okay. I'm struggling with it too.
You're noticing because obviously, well, at this point it will have played in the podcast, but with DWEM, Doctor Expanded Multiverse, your first episode came out with you as the Kiwi Doctor, and I saw the cast, and I went, now who else are you going to get? You might have to ask Michelle. You might have to ask Michelle.
I might have to ask Michelle. Yes.
Or Jacob.
Yes.
Or Joseph.
We've got a good cast list coming up.
Or Cameron.
Yeah.
We've
got a good cast list coming up, and I'm more. It's the going off topic quickly, but it's the beauty. It's the one of the best things about kind of being a part of this kind of community is just having so many people who will come in and do voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having people with kids. I have kids roles every now and again that I just go, Abby.
Yeah.
You have a child? And she goes, I do. And I'm like, sick. And I go, Jed, you have children? And he's like, yes. And so they just have lines in Kiwi Doctor stuff now. It's because I keep giving kids things to do.
If only I'd thought to do that when you wrote this. I don't think I was even talking to Abby yet when this was written.
No, I don't think.
Because, again, I can't say this enough for people listening. This is so far planned in advance that all the options that I have now were not available then.
These were written back in, like, December. The Volume 1 was written... Volume 2, I mean, was written last year.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Well, I know, because you can't...
Only 2 episodes of Mastermind, I think, were written this year.
Yeah.
And it was the last 2 episodes of Volume 4.
Yeah, which I've already said we're going to explain that story next month as to why that was done.
Yeah.
But you've already said that you can't write Christmas episodes without being at Christmas. So I know that this was definitely written this time last year at least.
I think this was written. I think this Christmas special was written in January. I think this is the one exception of that rule for me, and it was because I came up with it, and then I sat down and I was like, I guess I'm going to have to watch a Christmas movie in January.
Yeah. Right, is there anything else you wish to add? Anything you wish to say about the episode you've written, or how you feel about it, or anything?
Not really. I really like this episode. I think this one's really cool. I remember I wrote this and I sent it off to you, and you told me off because you were like, "Stop putting swear words in these."
Yeah. The problem is
the master does not say shit, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And
that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem with these next 3 volumes is that you have other characters around him swearing, and he's just like,
"Yeah,
no." And then you had to record. You had to record with John a little bit, and he was saying the lines, and you were like, "Oh, wait, no, you don't say that." And he goes, "It is written in the script," and you're like, "Yeah, but not now."
Yeah,
not anymore.
Connor told me off now. Connor told me off for that. Do it differently.
So if anyone's gonna listen to this upcoming Christmas special and possibly Volume 2, and you hear the master go, "Oh damn," you know what that was originally.
There was probably an F word in there.
yes, there was quite a few of them. Yeah,
he probably dropped an F bomb. He dropped a few F bombs in there.
Yes. Anyway, do you have a message for your future self before we move back over to them?
I don't think I currently do. No.
Well, I guess we'll have to find out what future Eamon has to say to past you then.
Yes. Hi, future Eamon.
And welcome back. It's your 2 favourite podcast hosts again, who you've not stopped hearing throughout this whole thing, but you've heard them at different points in their lives.
Also, Eamon, no, we didn't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Forgot about that.
Yeah, I just remembered. No, past Eamon, we did not get that.
Fair enough. So carrying on
cool
with
stuff,
the lineup,
but not that.
Carrying on with the lineup, we've got Dark Universe 2. Now, obviously, myself and Dan explained this before. It is a two-parter volume, so there's no Dark Universe 3 or 4. This is the final volume for the Irish Doctor.
Connor, hang on, Connor. I asked the shooty thing at the end of the Cravat Doctor segment.
Yeah.
So, and that was the Mastermind segment. So that was me replying.
I know.
Oh, okay. No, no. When I said it,
Were you under the impression that I had no idea what you were doing?
No, I was under the impression that I said it at the end of the Mastermind segment.
Didn't you?
No, I said the end of the Cravat Doctor segment when I interviewed you.
Oh.
Because that was also the day the Millie Gibson thing happened.
Well, you've really messed that up then, haven't you?
I've really fucked that one up, so we're going to have to start the segment again.
No, I'm keeping this all in.
Damn!
So everyone can know your failure.
Everyone knows I'm a failure.
Do you know what's funny? At the end of the Mastermind segment, you go, "Hello, Eamon. How are you?" And you go, "No."
I do a you during the Cravat Doctor segment.
Now you just go, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "Oh, that's how you were, mate." Anyway, so Dark Universe 2 is the final part. It's the final Irish Doctor volume that will be on Overton Audios, at least, because Dan will now, after this, everything's tied up for his story. It all links into Fractured Timeline. So now, obviously there may be a divergent story there. You never know.
Yeah.
Like what if Irish Doctor didn't have a regeneration error, or what if Nathan Chase was still around? You never know. But for now, this is Dark Universe 2, but this is also, importantly, where the Prism branding begins.
Yeah.
Next one, for February, instead of it all coming out in a day like usual, it's across the whole month, weekly, is the final ever volume of Crimson Hunter.
Oh, no.
It was the final ending of Crimson Hunter. We were originally going to have Volume 2 be the last one, but then we had ideas because we'd kind of done one centered pre-series 1, and then we have Volume 2 set in the era of Resurrection Season 2. Then we just did 3 and 4 because there were actually 2 decent gaps in there.
Yeah.
But no, that's it now. That's it. And we have a lot of recurring characters played by different people, which will all become clear when the trailer comes out as to what's going on. So we do have characters like James Carpenter, for example, and we have Captain Fraser Obadias. No, not Captain, Agent Fraser Obadias, which was weird because I had too many Frasers, and this isn't even a ward or Fraser World. Even it's just Fraser Obadias. That's an inside joke for those who don't know. But yeah, it's very nice. It's very solemn. I played some of it to Chelsea after we'd finished editing it, and she had a little cry as well. We all got quite tearful about it because it links in very much into what we know to be her final moments anyway. It's very much playing on that.
Yeah.
Then the next one, of course, Torchwood Nexus.
Yes.
March next year. But that will help to explain, that volume will help to explain everything that we're doing with Prism.
Yeah.
It'll help to explain everything.
It's a really good volume as well. I really like that one.
It explains, because obviously with Torchwood Rebirth...
That's not just because I wrote an episode.
Yeah. But with Torchwood Rebirth, there were references obviously within it, because at that point we were still a part of DW 2012, and when it came out we were still a part of DW 2012, so we found it good to have a reflection, and because we had nexus points in it and it happened to refer to the multiverse anyway, we thought this is a better opportunity than ever to kind of explain what's changed. It's nothing too drastic. It's nothing drastic at all. You'll still be able to listen to it and think, yeah, this is still Torchwood. The characters are still very much the same. It's just tiny little differences. Like, for example, an example would be like in Rebirth, one character who you meet in the volume just happened to die a little bit earlier. But ultimately, the characters still found out all the same information, but just under different means. That's it, really. And it's just very basic about that. We have a lot of cameos in this to help explain this change, and we just want to make it as clear as possible, really. The next one is Supers Volume 2, coming out in May next year. Now, Supers, we remade Volume 1 over the summer. That came out in a simultaneously with Devlin Volume 1. But with Supers Volume 2, it's just the next chapter. Obviously, Eamon, we've already talked about you're going to be playing one of the new main characters in this. This will be a non-Doctor Who thing as well.
Yes.
We talked about that earlier. Aidan O'Connor is in it. We've got Peter M. George. We've got Law Wilson. Michael Cox. I'm still appearing in it here and there. We've also talked about having Abby Louise from TT Productions, and obviously Chelsea will be appearing at some point. A lot of people, you have the opportunity to have people have the powers they want, and ultimately we still stay true to what was originally made for Volume 2, because obviously we've made Volumes 8, 9, and 10, so we have to make it work. But it gives us opportunities to explore more the earlier volume number it is.
Yeah.
And that's going to be fun. And it has been fun so far. I think I started writing Volume 2 immediately after Volume 1 before realising, oh, wait, I've got to make everything else first.
I remember we were on a Zoom and you were writing it, and then I think it's been months since you've...
I started writing Volume 2 in January this year. And then I was like, wait, hang on. I've got 15 months. So it's like, wait, hang on. This doesn't work.
You're like, I've got something coming out in 6 months, I must write.
Yeah. But then obviously, as we've also talked about in the volume as well, we end on the next announcement for the Cravat Doctor adventures, which is called Doctor Who Ascension. Which are also, just like with how Earthbound has been presented, is also all two-parters. Eamon's written a two-parter.
I have.
And
one of my favourite two-parters.
Yeah, we've also got a script written by Charlie Patricks, who wrote Schiller's Delicatessen for Series 4 of Resurrection. He wrote it immediately after writing Schiller's Delicatessen in 2019. And we're now here, about into the 4th year of me having that script. It's finally going to see the light of day. Hooray! So, yeah, that's fun. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else to really say about the lineup. That's roughly it.
No,
but the scripts, but those ones with all the scripts are all done. I know it's a bit scandalous because the majority of it applies to only like the first 2 months. But Divergence is a massive series anyway. We have got other things planned around that as well. It's just I need to make sure they get written, and I just don't have the security of knowing that they're going to be really on time because of production things being a bit slower and life happening. I have found myself actually, I don't know why I was so tired last podcast, because I've actually found myself with a bit more time on my hands, considering I'm always working and everything. I found myself with a lot more time recently to enable me to actually have evenings off or be able to go on Zoom calls with friends a bit more and not have to be working during it. There are the occasions that I do, and it's very rare now, but it enables me to be able to do these things now, which is really, really good. So as a result, we've actually, if that hadn't changed, I wouldn't be as far along as I am now, and I would probably be reshifting the entire schedule. So that's a positive. So I don't think there's anything else to say, because ultimately this is also the last podcast of the year as well, when you think about it. Last one of the year.
It's also the last. It's also no Dan.
Yeah, no Dan at all in this podcast. It's a Danless. We're Daniel-less.
No, Daniel.
We have mentioned him for Dark Universe too, and he will be back next month to talk about that, I'm sure.
He'll be back next month. But Daniel.
But yes. So of course, before I go, I want to obviously thank the Overton Audios patrons, which are Anya Coyle, Peter Scott, TT Productions 23, Chelsea Lagan, Delta Effects, and Joe Eddings. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for continuing to support Overton Audios in that way, whether or not you are a Patreon or patron, or whether or not you just listen to our silly little podcasts and audios. Thank you so much for Undying's support there. I am looking forward to seeing what we can develop more with Prism, and obviously as we go through next year, we're going to obviously lead up to the 60th with many things, and there are lots of audios in the works and ready to go. So I'm looking forward to doing all that as well. And Eamon, I'm sure you've got, like you said, you've got a whole series planned, and you're kind of already started.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there.
Next year's a big year for Kiwi.
Oh, good. So all I can say is, really, this is going to feel weird to say, but I hope you all have a lovely Christmas. And I also hope you all have a very happy New Year, and we'll see you in the New Year, I'm sure.
We'll see you in 2023.
Indeed. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
we don't seem happy about that.
This year went by fast. I was thinking about it earlier. I was like, I can remember literally the exact meal I had when I watched the first episode of Miss Marvel, and that was June. It feels like yesterday.
Well, I was
thinking about it, and I was like,
I remember February 6th. February 6th, before I'd moved my apartment around a little bit, and we were doing the read-through of one of the first drafts for the DWEM 60th. That was February.
We were, yeah. Yeah, no, and I was working.
Yeah.
Imagine me working.
You are. But yeah, nonetheless. So thank you all for listening again, and we will see you in the new year. Farewell.
Farewell.